The bell rang, echoing down the corridors of Blackridge High like a war drum. Students spilled out of classrooms, laughing, chatting, shoving books into backpacks. But in the middle of the chaos walked her, Alina. Quiet, head down, always alone. No one really knew much about her. She transferred in halfway through the semester, barely spoke a word, kept to the back of the room. Her clothes were plain, her eyes alert but low. Some whispered rumors she was shy, maybe homeschooled before, maybe even had a troubled past. But no one dared get close enough to ask, except the wrong kind of people noticed her. Madison, captain of the cheer squad, rich, loud, ruthless. Her clique, Cleo, Jada, and Tiff, followed her like shadows. Together, they were predators. They fed on weakness. And Alina, with her quiet demeanor and plain looks, became the next target. It started with whispers in the hallway, mocking laughter when she passed. Then, accidental spills on her notebooks, tripping her when no teachers were looking. She said nothing, not a word, just quietly cleaned up her things and walked away. But that only made it worse. Madison hated being ignored. She wanted a reaction. She wanted fear. Then came the day everything broke. It was after school. The locker hallway was nearly empty. The janitor was gone. The security cameras, mysteriously, had been disabled. Madison had friends who could make that happen. Alina was at her locker, packing her books when she heard them behind her. Well, Madison purred. Still pretending you're better than everyone. Alina didn't respond, just closed her locker. But as she turned to walk away, Cleo shoved her hard. She stumbled into the wall. You deaf or just stupid? Jada added, laughing. Alina looked up at them, eyes calm, unreadable. That made Madison snap. She lunged forward, grabbing the front of Alina's shirt. Say something, freak. Silence. Rip. With one brutal yank, Madison tore the front of Alina's shirt open, buttons scattering across the floor. The girls burst into laughter, and that's when it happened. Alina didn't flinch. She didn't cry. She moved. So fast, no one saw the fist coming. 1 second Madison was laughing. Next she was on the ground, gasping, clutching her nose, blood pouring through her fingers. The hallway froze. Then chaos. Jada screamed and lunged. Alina spun, ducked, elbowed her straight in the ribs. The sound echoed, sharp and final. Jada crumpled. Cleo grabbed Alina's hair. Mistake. Alina twisted, locking her wrist, yanking her off balance with a judo throw that slammed her to the ground so hard her head bounced. Tiff tried to run. She didn't get far. Alina caught her by the backpack strap, yanked her backward, and pinned her against the locker with her forearm across her throat. No more, Alina said, her first words all semester. Quiet, icy, controlled. Tiff nodded, eyes wide with terror. Footsteps thundered down the hallway. A teacher, finally hearing the commotion, turned a corner and stopped dead. 4 of the school's top girls, unconscious or sobbing on the floor, and in the center, Alina, breathing steady. Shirt torn, but untouched now. Like a storm that had passed, they called the principal, security, even the police. But Alina didn't run. She stood there, waiting. The story blew up. Videos leaked. Someone had filmed the whole thing on a hidden phone. The footage went viral overnight. Comments flooded in. She's a ninja. Don't mess with quiet kids. Justice. Madison's family tried to press charges. But then Alina's records were revealed. Military training. Her father had been special forces. She'd trained since she could walk. Certified in multiple martial arts. Moved often because of deployments. This wasn't a normal girl. This was a weapon, wearing the mask of silence. She hadn't struck first. She didn't escalate. She endured until they went too far, and the world saw it for what it was, not a fight, but survival. Blackridge High changed overnight. The whispers stopped. So did the bullying. Students looked her way with respect, even fear. Some tried to befriend her. She accepted a few, politely. But mostly, she stayed the same, quiet, alert, alone. Because she hadn't come to fight. She just came to escape her past. But when they ripped her clothes, when they tried to strip her dignity, they woke something that had been sleeping. And they learned a hard truth. The quietest one in the room is usually the most dangerous. Madison had always ruled the school through fear masked as popularity. Her voice echoed in the hallways like it belonged there, like she had inherited the very walls. Teachers looked the other way. Other students either followed her or disappeared into the background. And in her world, silence was weakness, obedience was survival, and anyone who didn't play her game was marked. When Alina first arrived, Madison didn't even notice her. A new transfer student, plain, quiet, forgettable. But after a week, Madison did notice her, and that was when Alina's life at Blackridge began to change. It wasn't because Alina did anything. That was the problem. She didn't do anything. She didn't laugh at Madison's jokes, didn't react when they accidentally knocked her books over, didn't even flinch when they whispered insults just behind her ear. To someone like Madison, that was intolerable. Her entire kingdom was built on reactions, envy, fear, admiration. But Alina gave her nothing. She was like a shadow that refused to move, and Madison hated shadows. So she escalated. What started as snide remarks turned into tripping in the cafeteria, dumping drinks on her homework, cruel pranks in the locker room. Still, Alina didn't bite. She would pick up her things, straighten her shoulders, and walk away without a word. And each time she did, a new layer of rage grew in Madison's chest. It wasn't just about control anymore. It was personal. Madison needed to see her break, needed to make her feel small. She didn't understand that not every quiet person is weak. Some are quiet because they've already survived storms others couldn't imagine. Then came that afternoon. No phones, no teachers, just silence. An opportunity. Madison had planned it. She wanted it to be public, brutal, humiliating. Not just words, but damage. She didn't care about school rules. Her father was on the board. She thought she was untouchable. When they cornered Alina at her locker, it was like a pack of lions surrounding a deer. Or so they believed. They underestimated her. When Madison grabbed her shirt and ripped it open, she thought that would be the moment Alina would finally cry, scream, plead. Instead, she saw something she didn't expect. Alina's eyes. Not teary, not terrified. Calm. Still, like a mirror held up to a hurricane. In that fraction of a second, Madison felt something twist in her gut. Fear. But it was too late. The punch came so fast she didn't see it, only felt her nose explode under the force, heard the wet crunch of cartilage, then the cold floor slamming into her back. Everything after that was chaos. Alina didn't fight like a student. She fought like someone who had trained for this. Years of discipline, reflex, precision. No wasted movement, no hesitation. Jada's ribs folded under a perfect elbow. Cleo's attempt to grapple turned into her being flipped mid-air and slammed flat. Tiff barely had time to run before she was pulled back and neutralized. But it wasn't rage. That was what disturbed the teacher when he finally arrived. There was no screaming, no madness. Alina stood there like someone who had done this before. Like someone who could have done worse, but chose not to. Her eyes scanned each of the girls, making sure they wouldn't get up again, then met the teacher's gaze without flinching. It wasn't until after that the world learned who Alina really was. She wasn't just a transfer student. She had moved between 6 schools in 5 years. Her father had served in special operations. She had grown up in military bases, trained in jiu-jitsu, Krav Maga, boxing, tactical defense. Not for sport, for survival. Because some children are taught piano. Others are taught to survive war zones. And Alina, she had seen violence before, but she didn't enjoy it. But she knew how to end it. The media picked up the story. The footage leaked. The narrative flipped. Suddenly, Madison and her crew weren't victims. They were exposed for what they were. Bullies who finally picked the wrong girl. The school district scrambled to save face. Madison's family threatened legal action until lawyers reviewed the video and saw Alina never threw the first strike. It was self-defense. Clear, controlled, almost restrained. If anything, she had held back. Madison never returned to school. Her broken nose needed surgery. Jada had bruised ribs. Cleo had a mild concussion. Tiff refused to speak to anyone for weeks. And Alina, she came back to school the next day, dressed the same. Quiet, polite, sitting in the back row, same as always. But everything had changed. Nobody messed with her. Not out of fear alone, but respect. Even the teachers treated her differently. Some whispered about her behind closed doors. Others admired her discipline. Students started to talk to her. Genuinely. Not out of curiosity, but connection. Some shared their own stories of bullying. Others just wanted to sit near her. Slowly, a new kind of circle formed around Alina, not of followers, but of people who saw in her something unshakable. She wasn't a hero. She didn't want to be. But she had become something more important, a symbol. Because everyone, at some point, feels powerless. Everyone has been cornered, mocked, torn down. And watching someone rise up, not out of anger, but strength, was something people needed to see. What Madison never understood was that power isn't volume. It isn't status. It's not how many people cheer for you. Real power is quiet. It doesn't boast. It doesn't need attention. It just waits. And when the time comes, it stands. It wasn't just that Alina fought back. It was how she fought that haunted everyone afterward. She didn't scream. She didn't panic. She didn't even look angry. Her face, throughout the entire incident, was as unreadable as stone. but her body moved with the precision of someone who had done this many times before. Not in school fights, but in disciplined, deliberate training sessions. No wasted motion. Every strike calculated, every movement efficient. It was terrifying because it wasn't chaotic, it was controlled. And that control told everyone watching that she could have done far worse. She simply chose not to. In the days that followed, the school buzzed with rumors, whispers about where she learned to fight like that. Some said she was ex-military. Others said she was from a foreign intelligence family. The truth was simpler, but more powerful. Alina's father had been in special forces, a trainer, an operator, a man who had raised his daughter with the same core principles he'd taught soldiers. She didn't live a normal childhood. No sleepovers, no dance classes. She trained before school, after dinner, every weekend. Not to be violent, but to be unbreakable. Her mother passed away when she was 9. After that, her father became her world. He taught her that the world isn't fair, that people will try to hurt you just to see if they can, that in those moments, you either freeze or you finish it. Alina had lived by those rules for most of her life. But when she came to Blackridge High, she wanted to be normal. She deliberately buried that part of herself. She chose silence, chose to blend in, because for once, she didn't want to fight. She just wanted peace. But bullies don't recognize restraint as kindness. They see it as weakness. The moment Madison tore her shirt in that hallway, everything Alina had been suppressing snapped back into place. It wasn't just the physical violation. It was the arrogance of it. The certainty Madison had that there would be no consequences. That she could humiliate someone, assault them, and laugh while doing it. Alina didn't fight back because she lost control. She fought because it was time. Time to remind people that the world isn't always as soft and safe as they assume. Time to remind them that every action has a reaction, and some people are not prey. They're wolves in quiet coats. And the most frightening thing for Madison and her friends wasn't the pain. It was realizing how little effort it took for Alina to destroy them. That was the second key lesson burned into the school's memory. The hallway, after the fight, became something of a shrine. People walked past it differently. Quieter, more thoughtful, like something sacred or dangerous had happened there. The janitor even scrubbed away the bloodstains in silence, not asking questions. Alina became a myth. Some feared her. Others idolized her. Students who used to be invisible now held their heads a little higher. Not because they believed they could do what Alina did, but because someone had. Victims found courage in her silence. Bullies paused before they acted. The balance of power had shifted in a way that couldn't be after the fight. The principal's office turned into a war room. Alina sat across from 3 adults, Principal Reynolds, a school counselor, and a liaison officer from the local police department. Papers shuffled. Accusations floated. But Alina didn't flinch. She told the truth. She had been bullied for weeks, had warned no one, had endured it all, until they ripped her clothes. Her voice was calm, steady. She wasn't emotional, just honest. It wasn't an outburst, she said. It was the last option left. The officer watched her with sharp, calculating eyes. He recognized something in her. Not anger, not rebellion, but discipline. Later, he would confirm her story, her father's military background, her training history, even her restraint. What could have been a violent, messy assault was instead a controlled defense. Minimal damage, no weapons, no overkill. It was, in many ways, the perfect defensive response. The school was split. Some parents wanted her expelled. Too dangerous, they said. Others stood by her. What about the girls who attacked her first? They demanded. Eventually, a decision was made. The school wouldn't punish her, but they wouldn't celebrate her either. A quiet compromise, no record, no public statement. Just silence. But students don't forget. The story spread far beyond the building. Social media exploded with support. Hashtags like #FaQuietStorm and Fed Justice for Alina trended for days. People sent messages of solidarity. Others asked for self-defense lessons. Alina didn't post. Didn't respond. She went back to class like nothing happened. But everyone who looked at her now understood something she hadn't. Snapped. She allowed it to happen. And when she moved, it wasn't out of rage. It was the exact moment she stopped letting them decide who she was.